So business planning, man, I did want to say a word about that. Jeannie is on the line here, and I had basically the way this all came about was I was talking it up online about how I take the last week of the year and I do some serious planning for my business. I've done that for more than 25 years. I always do a plan, and so I was kind of talking it up online, and as I talked it up, people were reaching out saying, hey, can you teach me? Can you help me? Can you show me? And Jeannie was so bold to say, I'm going to drive to the farm. And so as much as I would love to have her here, I saw how people were serious, about wanting to hear a little bit about how I do my business planning. I'm sure people do their own way, but this is all about, planning for your business, some tips that might help you along the way. At least I hope so. That's the goal of the call, at least. So remember that you can pipe in after we get to a point of question, answers, and that sort of thing. But, this really is a very important topic, making plans. Most of our people, at least the ones that I deal with, have never been in business before. And things that I might do or so other people on the line might do just by nature, just because we've done it so long, a lot of people don't even know what we're talking about. They wouldn't even know how to begin, how to make a plan. And as leaders, we really do need to train our team to plan for that, because without a roadmap, nobody gets to the destination at all in anything. If I told everybody on this line tonight, drive to Amanda, Ohio, and you didn't have a GPS, and you didn't have a map, and you didn't have written directions, and you didn't have anybody that you could pick the phone up and call and ask how to get there, most of you wouldn't. A lot of you would say, what are you, nuts? I'm not even going to try that. That's just too hard. And some people might start out and they get discouraged. They turn around and come back home. And there'll be some people that will actually have the perseverance and the drive to keep going, and they would eventually find their way to Amanda, Ohio. But you know what? It certainly wouldn't have been an easy journey. So our business is very much like that. Without a roadmap, we're not going to get where we want to go. Your why is just part of that equation. We all tell you you got to have a why, a mission, a purpose, something that, burn in your belly. But without action, that why is nothing more than a wish list. I mean, I hate to be cruel, but that's true. Every single business on the planet has a plan for the year and beyond. Mine is for the year now, and I have a 5-year plan in the works. So if every business has a plan and you're in business for yourself, why don't you have a plan? It doesn't make any sense to move forward without a plan. I also have to kind of issue a semi-warning, if you will. If you don't have a why, if you don't have a purpose, the goal, whatever you label that, you can stop right now. You're really on the wrong call, because there's no magical formula. You have to have the drive within you. You have to know what you're trying to accomplish, know what your goals are. Or you can't, chart it out. You can't chart a course without a goal. So if you don't have that, you need to stop right now, figure out what that is, and get back on it later. All plans for everything in life begin with a goal. They kind of begin with the end, right, of where you're trying to go. There are basics before the plan, that I like to say, at least. You want to evaluate or maybe reevaluate your why, your goal, your mission. Sometimes, life has changed since you did it last time, or since you first did it when you got in the business. So as you're, considering the possibility of developing a plan for yourself, you need to reevaluate that why. Where are you? Is it still the same? Is it bigger? Is it smaller? Is it more passionate? Does it need to change? You need to reevaluate that. And then, of course, what we do is we put a dollar figure to that goal. What does your why look like financially? I have people that, talk to me about stuff all the time. Well, I want to pay cash for my next house. Oh, great. Well, what kind of house is it going to be? A nice house. Well, great. How much is that nice house going to cost? I mean, you got to know something. I had somebody that said, I just want to be able to travel with grandchildren. Great. Where do you want to go? You want to go to the local park? You want to go to Europe? What does that look like? Your why, or that goal, has to have a dollar figure associated with it. And if you don't know what it looks like financially, how are you ever going to reach it? You're just going to talk about, making sales and coming up with enough money to take the grandchildren somewhere. You're never really going to accomplish that because you don't even know what it looks like. So first of all, you have to know what it looks like and to be able to develop that plan. But there are other considerations first, for me at least, as I come down from one year and get ready for the next year, some things that I get in place. First of all, evaluate the workspace. Are you organized? I know that sounds simple, but it's a problem for a lot of people. Do you have what you need right at your fingertips? Do you have, if somebody knocked on your door right now, could you come up with the documents to get them to sign to sell them a unit? You know what? A lot of people be fumbling around. They wouldn't even have it. And I know some people might say, well, that's easy for you. You have an office and I don't have a designated workspace. There's no excuse. You're talking to somebody that's been 18 years in real estate, and believe me, we live out of our cars, okay? So we didn't ever get in a car that didn't have a file box with a listing agreement and a contract and addendums and whatever we needed. And today, if you went in the back of my car, you'll find all the documents that I need. Just in case I'm on the road, I can close a sale. So you need to evaluate your workspace. Do you have what you need? Are there things lacking? I'll tell you something kind of silly for me is that, I've got, my plan involves a lot of cold calling, and I have this great phone system. It's a wireless phone system. I have 4 receivers, and it's so awesome because it can sync to my cell phone. So what that means is I don't have to carry my cell phone around the house. If the phone rings, it's syncing to that phone. I just pick up the closest phone. But truth be told, the reception on that cell phone, I mean, it's one of the best you can buy. Okay, it's not a cheap unit. It's just not the best, right? It fades in, it fades out sometimes, and so the bottom line is, when I was evaluating, I said, you know what, I'm going to a wired phone. So I just ordered a desktop phone with a wired handset with a whole button and all the bells and whistles. But I realized as I was evaluating my workspace that I needed to make some changes. If I'm going to be on the phone all day, better be good, clear calls, right? Another thing you want to do is evaluate your finances. Are you spending frugally? There's a big difference between being cheap and being frugal. I'm not cheap, okay? If I buy clothes, I buy nice clothes. Buy a car, I buy a nice car. You go to a restaurant, they'd like to see me coming. I probably tip ridiculously high, but whatever. I'm not cheap, but I'm very frugal. If there's something I can do for myself around the house, I don't pay somebody to do it, right? I look at things like that and try to be frugal. And sometimes at this time of year, it's a real good idea to take a look at the money that you're spending. You might want to evaluate things like insurance and your cell phone and maybe your internet service, because things get reduced all the time. There are deals going on all the time, and you may not even be aware of those deals. You got to value money. It's not a matter of being cheap. Somebody said to me recently, they said they were asking me about some internet service that we had talked about a little while ago, and I had subscribed to it, and we were talking about it, and they said, how's that working for you? And I said, well, actually, I discontinued it. And they said, why would you do that? It was only $20 a month. And I said, if it has no value to me whatsoever, why would I spend $20 a month? You have to value money. I have a couple people in my life that I got to know through business. I mean, we're talking multi-millionaire, billionaire level people. And I've been out with them on construction sites and things like that. And each one of them, I've seen them bend over and pick up a penny or a nickel or a dime or whatever piece of change was on the ground, when most of us would walk over it. And they say the same thing is true for Warren Buffett. If he sees a penny on the ground, he bends over and picks it up. Not because they're cheap, but because they value money. So you really do need to evaluate your finances. And you also need to understand when you're in business, regardless of the kind of business, but more specifically, if you're in a business that's commission-based, you're going to have ups and downs. I mean, this doesn't, it takes a while to build a business up to where it's producing well beyond your means consistently month after month after month. It takes a while to get there. So you need to be careful with those ups and downs and plan for the ups and downs. And, so often I'll hear people say, well, I can't make any money at this. It's because they rev up and they make a little money and they spend it faster than they make it, and then they don't have any money, and then they say the business doesn't work. That's not true. The business works. You just have to work it. You have to do it your own part. So when you make that money, you have to plan for the future. If you're not quite where you need to be consistently, you need to be sure you just don't spend everything that comes in. When I got into real estate, I was a little scared. I was thinking, wow, nobody takes my taxes out. I'd been an employee for a long time, and nobody takes my taxes out. So I always have a plan, and I started out with this, and it's a good plan, actually. I would take 10% off the top for savings, 10% off the top for tithing, and 30% went into escrow for taxes. Now, if you do your taxes right, you won't need 30%, but it was always a big cushion to give me peace. So what did that really equate to? That equated to half of the money I took in, I felt free to spend. Be good with your money. Evaluate your finances and be good with your money. And lastly, evaluate your taxes. If you're in business, one of the biggest reasons to be in business for yourself is that you're going to take home a whole lot more money than your friends who are employees for somebody else. But you have to be mindful of that. You have to have a system for your taxes. You have to know, generally at least, what's tax deductible. You don't have to be a tax expert. You don't even have to do your own taxes if you don't want to, but you at least need to understand what you can write off and keep those receipts, right? I mean, if everything from your cell phone to your internet to your mileage is a biggie for people in our world, you know. And I tell you how archaic I am. I do a lot of things. I use technology, but you know, if I go on a road trip, for instance, I go on to MapQuest and I map out each stop along the way, and you know, on MapQuest. Why? Because MapQuest is a really good, you know, proven method that could stand an audit, and because it has a little place on there when before I print it out of notes, who I met with and what I did. On the short trips, I don't do that. But you know, way back in the day, before I worked for myself, actually, I would be out on the road on a plane nonstop, and I was forever losing receipts, forever. I mean, I couldn't get reimbursement because I couldn't even come home with the receipts. And so I learned I got a little mobile scanner, and when I travel, you know, that everything gets scanned in and I throw the paper away. Whatever it takes for you, you need to evaluate your tax situation and be sure you're good about having a plan and being able to write these things off. You know, the tax difference with the write-offs is unbelievable. If you really haven't taken advantage of that, you really don't understand what you have in having your own business. So those are just a couple things to consider before you even get going with your plan. And then there are some basics here. You know, there isn't a business on the planet, again, that doesn't have an annual goal and beyond. The financial goals are always backed up with a plan to get there, and financial goals can't be vague. You can't just say, I want to make a lot of money, I want to buy a nice house, I want to go on a good vacation. They have to be specific financial goals. They can't be vague. And you set financial goals and then you plan accordingly. So you kind of back up those goals with a plan. So, you know, you focus on the broad. You know, businesses don't focus on one sale at a time, and you shouldn't either. We get there one sale at a time, don't get me wrong. But if you focus just one sale at a time and you think about all the effort in one sale at a time, it's overwhelming sometimes. But think about McDonald's, and not that that's our favorite place, right? But you think about McDonald's, they don't put their energy into one burger at a time, right? They set projections, and then they come up with a plan to meet those projections. Maybe it's a new toy in the Happy Meal, or maybe it's a new sandwich of mystery meat, whatever. They come up with something to help them meet those projections. There's got to be a plan. They can't just say, well, next year we want to make more money. Well, how are you going to make more money? So you don't focus on it one sale at a time, even though that's the way we get there, one sale at a time. You focus on the broader picture of your year. And that's the way we move forward. But you know what? One of the biggest factors, probably the biggest factor, it stands in the way of success or stands in the way of everything we're trying to do, is fear. And fear has no place here. You know, some won't plan at all because it looks too big. That's kind of sounds like Amanda, Ohio, right? I'm not even going to try. It's too hard. Some won't move forward because they're afraid of failure. Some are afraid to dream. I think that's sad. You know, a lot of people in our world have been so beaten up that they won't even dream. You know, to try to get out of the mess they're in. They're afraid to dream. Some are afraid of success. I know that sounds strange, but sometimes there have been experiences in your life, or maybe it's that you had success and you lost it and you don't want to get it again because you might lose it again. I don't know. Some are afraid of success. Some have preconceived notions about their potential, or in their eyes, their lack of potential, and it's all just lies to yourself, right? Some are afraid of the effort that it's going to take. How many times have I heard people say, this business isn't easy? It's not this business, guys. You're in business for yourself. You're going to have to work. It's no get rich quick thing, you know, something that comes down the pike and you know, breathe twice and you make $1 million. Nothing's going to happen like that. You're going to have to roll up your sleeves and you're going to have to put in the work. So some people are afraid of that effort. But fear has no place in planning on your, or in your success. You got to get rid of it. Somehow you got to learn to overcome it. I've got some videos out there you might want to listen to. I taught classes on that. Fear can be, you know, managed. It doesn't always go away, but it can certainly be managed. If you want to succeed, you've got to nix that fear. You've got to get it out of your way, or it's going to stand in the way of everything you hope for. So what does the plan entail? Well, using the financial goal as a basis, efforts are defined for, you know, how you're going to get there. So we all know that in business, it's a numbers game, right? But you have to create the flow of your prospects. You got to have people to work with. It's a numbers game. I think that one of the problems that we see is that we, you know, get one person and, oh, this is going to be a superstar, and we stop and we water them and we get them on board, and it's just kind of crazy. We don't keep flowing with the prospects. It's a numbers game. We can't afford to stop and do that. It's not a ministry, although a lot of things that we do are ministry based. It's not a ministry. You're you're in business, you got to keep moving. Efforts include things like networking meetings or cold calls or social media. It could be farmers markets or trade shows or whatever, right? But only you can define the avenues that you'll work to reach the masses. We all come at this business from a different place, and although most of what we have is duplicatable, when it comes to making your plan, you have to determine what's going to work for you to reach the masses. My plan isn't necessarily a good plan for you, and vice versa. But the plan, most importantly, is designed to keep you on course. It's designed to motivate you because you've got a goal, right? And now you put numbers to that goal. It's designed to motivate you, and you know what? It's also your marching orders. I see a lot of people in my world, they're used to working for somebody else, and it's almost like they're sitting back waiting for somebody to tell them what to do. Nobody's going to tell you what to do. You're in business for yourself. So if you don't have a boss giving you marching orders, you need to develop your marching orders. And that's really very much about what a plan really is to give yourself accountability and motivation and marching orders. But remember, it's always about you. There's nobody to blame if you don't see success. There's nobody to blame if you don't do it right. You know, you're your own boss, and you're your own leader in your own business. It's all about you. Every time I really ponder the ENTAIL compensation plan, I see how more brilliant it is every time. I mean, it's just crazy complicated in so many ways. But your plan should be based, your business plan, if you will, should be based on your efforts and not just presumed efforts of others. I mean, we all hope to identify those superstars. We're all looking to build a strong team, right? But if we just focus on that one person as they come in, oh, this is my superstar, and you drop everything else, you're not going to make a living. So you have to, your plan that you develop here, you only have control over you. You don't have control over the volume everybody else has. So your plan should be based on your efforts and not presumed efforts of others. That's all going to be icing on the cake. One way, again, that we get lost is focusing on other people. And again, the way we're going to see tremendous growth is when we identify those people. I'm not saying that we don't, but I am saying if you're like myself, I need to make a living, okay? So I need a plan that you know, just focuses on me to pay my bills, right? And so, and then I'll find those other people. So it's always about you. You'll always need to stay in sales mode yourself. There is no sitting back and let other people do it for you. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people, you know, because of that duplication or residual income mentality, that's what we do. You know, we get to a certain rank and then we slow down and expect, you know, dollars to roll in. If, for instance, there's a saying out there that says there are a lot of broke 6As. Well, there's the only reason to be broke is if you're not working. So do you think that everybody else is going to do it for you? That's your icing on the cake. You still got to do what you do. And if you keep running, or if I keep running, we're going to find another me, or you're going to find another you. But we got to keep running. Who wants to follow people that are running, right? So we've got to keep running. We've got to keep setting that example, and eventually we will find another you. But it's going to take effort of your own, and not just going down into the trenches every time you make a sale and play around at that level. You've got to keep moving. I'm going to give you just a snapshot of what I'm doing, okay? And so I'm not going to go into the very details. We'd be here for weeks. But I am going to give you an idea of what a plan looks like for me. You know, my goal, my why, if you will, is to get my mortgage paid off. That's it. I mean, I'm sure it's going to grow and transform into other things later on. Right now, I owe no man nothing except that mortgage, and I don't ever want to owe anybody again as long as I live. I don't have credit cards. I don't have car payments. I don't have anything but a mortgage, and I want it gone. So that probably, realistically, isn't going to happen in just a year or two. I understand that. But for now, my plan's pretty simple, okay? And that plan is, number one, I want $10,000 minimum a month in income. Now, I'm going to stop right there, because there are probably some people on the line that are, you know, shocked at that number. Maybe you've never made that kind of money before. But if not, why not? I mean, why would you, you know, not be able to do that? You can do that. And frankly, in my world, I don't mean to sound arrogant at all, but, you know, $10,000 a month is like, you know, taking a big hit for me. I need to get myself back up to $10,000 at least a month in income. And secondly, on that, more of a team kind of goal, is I need to hit 6A too. So those are my two goals. And you, again, don't be overwhelmed by my goals. You need to look at your own, but I'm just trying to set the pace for you to show you what I looked at. Now, this isn't a pretty picture, obviously. I'm not being artistic with you, but you know, you need to make your goals visible. So in terms of looking at my 6A2, I need to look at it just like we do in real estate, you know, where you'd have a listing board and a sales board. You need to be visual. You know, and visual things motivate us, right? So you need to force yourself to look at where you are and chart your progress. this out if you have a rank kind of goal. So I'll try to walk you through this. I took a lot of stuff off of this board to try to simplify it just for this call. But what you're looking at here is this would be me, okay, in the center. This would be one leg that needs to go to 6A, and this is the other leg. These are the two closest people I have to go into 6A, right? So my goal right off the bat is to look at these two people and try to figure out how am I going to get those people to 6A. Now you might look at it and say, oh my gosh, look at all those circles. But you know what? It's a motivating thing. It's not that it's far off, it's that it's motivating. As each person makes a sale, I'll be able to color in these circles and get excited as we go all the way to the top, right? But you know, when you think about it, to go to 6A2, I mean, it's not a perfect world, and this is certainly not a formula, but to go to 6A2, basically there needs to be 300 units sold. You need to get 6A at 100 units, and to get two other people 6A at 100 units. And when you think about it, I don't care what your background is or where you're coming from, okay? 300 of anything is not a lot. 300 McDonald's hamburgers, 300 computers, 300 cell phones, 300 cars, even 300 houses is not a lot. It's all in our mental block of what we do to say it's too much. But this is what I have to look at every day, right? And so I have to look at how am I going to get this person to 6A, and how am I going to get this person to 6A, and after I do that, I'll be looking here building myself another leg, okay? So that's what that bottom portion is right there. But it's a visual thing. You need to make it visible. If your goal is just to get the 6A, you know, you can come up with the circles, and that, by the way, I just went online and downloaded a template of circles. You don't have to sit there and draw them. Just, you know, if you could put where you are, how many more you have to sell or whatever. So you have to look at it visually. You've got to face the enemy here, guys, and you've got to be excited about your progress. The only way to do that is to do a visual something. This is not to be confused with your vision board. This is your business plan board, your focus board, if you will. So it's very simple there. And then break it down. So if my goal is to reach $10,000 per month on my own efforts, you look at that. If you took $10,000 and you're at 6A divided by 1710, that's 5.84, or rounded up to 6 units a month. Well, again, depending on where you're coming from, am I looking at this and, you know, hey, I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging here, but I know I don't need to fear this, right? Because in real estate, I sold more than that in houses a month. I sold more than 6 houses a month. I mean, for year after year after year, by the way. So I know I don't need to look at that and say, oh, how am I going to do that? You know what makes me think, how am I going to do that? Is when I look at each one at a time, each, you know, one sale at a time, because sometimes you'll think you put a lot of effort in, or you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to work with all those water shares? You don't think about that, guys. You stay on the broad end of that. So for me to accomplish my monthly goal without anybody else's efforts, I basically need to sell 6 units a month, right? And so one thing I would encourage you to do is to get inside your own head. You know, it really doesn't matter what level you are. If you're following a system, and what I mean by that is, how do you manage a water share? How do you do a 3-way? You know, what is the process of dealing with somebody? So if you're following that system, then the number of hours on each sale is very low. You know, for instance, let's say you're a 1A and you dedicate a total of 2 hours, which is probably pretty realistic, by the way, toward a sale. Your hourly rate's $142.50 an hour. And when's the last time you made $142.50 an hour? If you're a 2A, it's $285 an hour. If you're a 3A, it's $427.50 an hour. If you're a 4A, it's $570 an hour. If you're a 5A, it's $712.50 an hour. If you're a 6A, it's $855 an hour. So I ask you, when you consider how much per hour you're making, doesn't it make you want to work a little harder? I mean, you might say, well, I only made 1 sale in 1 month. I can tell you, all the sales that you have or you don't have are directly related to how much effort you're putting in, right? And so if you know you can make that kind of money, who makes that kind of money? Right, you get $142.50 an hour is more than most lawyers make, okay? So if you can just get inside your own head and realize what you have and the opportunity to streamline your efforts, follow the system, and keep those numbers going, it's astronomical what you can do with your life. But you need to get inside your own head and see what you have. If you know, do we want to be a minimum wage person out there? Do we want to be a business owner? And really, take it a step further. Let's look at, let's say you have somebody in your team. Let's say I have a 3A distributor below me, that my 3A leg, and they make a sale, and I did a 3-way. What was it, 15, 20 minutes on a 3-way? and then I get a check for $855. It's basically $855 an hour for them as well. So it is huge, but you've got to get inside your own head. Believe me, this was a transition for me. You know, coming out of real estate, I can still remember, I practically kicked people out of my house that, don't you talk to me about that business, because I'm sitting there saying, what are you, nuts? I don't get out of bed for $285. You know, I was used to big checks, right? I needed to get inside my head and look at what effort it takes and how what the possibilities are as I build that team also selling beneath me, right? But you've got to get inside your own head. Look at your effort weighed against the money that you can make, and really it's astronomical. So we need to look at the law of averages. If I need to sell 6 units a month, then I need to reach at least 60 people a month, right? So there you go. You're probably all freaking out. I can't even get 6 people. How am I going to get 60 people? That's why you have a plan, guys. It's getting 60 people a month isn't quite as hard as you might be thinking it is. So I need to get 60 people a month. So where am I going to find them? Well, again, that's where the plan gets personal to you. I know what I got going on. I'm going to share a little bit about that, but that's where the plan gets personal, right? You can go to network meetings or just work off of referrals, which is something we leave in the dust in our business. Cold calling, you know, demo parties, social media, etc. Again, you can do farmers markets or trade shows or public speaking or whatever you do. Only you can decide what you'll do to reach the people you need to reach. There's no canned formula for this part, okay? But I will share a couple things that I'll be doing here. So to take a glimpse of mine, first of all, I have fine-tuned the audience that I'm going to reach this year. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail with that, but you might be, let's say, for instance, you have an opportunity to talk to the autistic world. Well, you would be fine-tuning that audience. How do you reach as many people as you can reach to be able to reach the autistic world? I fine-tuned my audience. I know who I'm reaching this year. I found their contact information. I've done a little bit of research, and I have written down my call list. I'm ready to dial. So the picture on the screen there is a notebook, and it's filled up. I mean, it's not like, hey, I got to look somebody's number up. Oh, I got to figure out where they're located. I got it all. I got their name, their address, their phone number. I got the whole thing. I've written them all down. I'm ready to dial. And so my list right now, today, on January 2nd, is 500 and a few people strong, and it's going to be added to along the way. That took a little work, right? It took a little effort. Nobody's going to just hand you a list, or I guess you could buy a list if you want, but the people are out there. We live in the information highway here. We can get on the internet and find almost anything we want to find. So my list is 500 strong. It's going to keep growing. You know, I've scripted what I'm going to say. I know exactly what I'm going to say as I pick that phone up and they answer. So I'm going to hit the ground running, right? I don't have to fumble around and think about it. One thing that my team unfortunately hears me say a lot is quit getting ready to get ready to do something. You know, just make a plan and do it. So I already know what I'm going to do. I'll be making a minimum of 10 cold calls each day. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you something. If you've never done that, you know that, you know, if you spend a lot of time on the phone with these people, it's a very good day. But when you do 10 cold calls, it's usually not going to take a tremendous amount of time. And when you reach them, you don't really want to have a conversation. You want to set a meeting, right? And so that really isn't a whole lot of time. But if I commit to do that, if I commit to minimum of 10 cold calls each day, do you think I'll see success? You bet I will. It's just putting in the effort, right? So as long as I'm doing it, I'm going to see success. And then there's more. I've identified networking groups that I'm going to visit. And I've already RSVP'd, so I've already got my schedule set through the first quarter of the year for 2 networking meetings per week for that first quarter. Now, I want to make it clear, I'm not joining any groups, okay? You know, jury's still out for me in terms of putting all your effort into a group. You know, I'm just not there. And so I won't be joining anything. I'll be visiting for the purpose of gathering leads. So let me walk you through this. This is a good nugget for you, by the way. You know, let's say, for instance, BNI, Business Network International. Most people on this call would know Business Network International. And so when, you know, they're all about having one representative from each field. So in other words, they would have one realtor and one plumber and one electrician and one moving company. They have one from each field, and they're all about giving each other referrals. Okay, for me in my auction business, I actually tried out BNI, and frankly, my niche was so small that I didn't get any referrals from any of those people. I gave them out, but I didn't get them, and I think our niche is too small here too. But anyway, when you go, they're all about rolling out the red carpet. They want to impress you with the caliber of people in their group. So you know what they do? They hand you an envelope with a business card of everybody in their group as their guest. Well, they just handed you, you know, whatever size group that is, 40, 50, 60 people strong. right? So if I visit 2 meetings a week that have an average of 40 people at each meeting, do you think I'll find success? You bet I will. But you know what I do when I get these cards? I mean, I know what a lot of people on this call would do. They'd say, oh, I'm going to email them. It's the biggest cop-out on the planet is just sending an email. But I take it a step further, and it's got to happen pretty quick, like a few days after that meeting. But I call people on the business cards, okay? And I'll say, you know what, I have to apologize because there's a whole lot more of you than there were of me, and I don't remember if we've met or not at the meeting on Tuesday. Did we meet? And they'll tell you, no, I wasn't there. Oh, yeah, I remember meeting you, whatever. And that's when you remember, they're all about getting new recruits in. And so I'll say, you know what? I'm just not sure B&I is a good fit for me. Can I buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brain a little bit, see if it's a fit? So what am I doing? I'm getting an appointment. You think they want to meet with me? I'm buying them coffee. They're local. They're trying to recruit in because they get accolades for that. And they know that most people that come in are going to give them business. So of course they want to meet with me. Don't hesitate, by the way, when you say, I'm not sure it's a good fit for me. Don't shut up because they'll say, what do you do, right? So you just want to say, I'm not sure it's a good fit for me. I see that you're local. Can I buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brain? And what are they going to want to know when you meet? They're going to want to know about your business. So really, you've opened a platform for them to find out about your business. It really works well. So when I talk about these networking meetings, I'm not talking about joining all these groups and having all these weekly commitments to a specific group or anything. I am going in there, I'm doing my elevator speech, and I'm going home with a handful of leads, okay? So that's basically an average of 80 leads a week, if I did that. So you think I'd see success? You better believe I will. And then there's more. I've dedicated to do social media. Now, if you don't do social media, this is not a call out that you have to do social media. That drives me a little crazy sometimes. People that really don't have experience at it, they're not willing to get trained at it, and they're sitting there frustrated because they can't make money just off the internet. But I've been doing social media for my auction business, for a long time. So I'm going to dedicate time to doing social media. I'll be doing some posting like I do today, but I'll be doing more commenting. And what do I mean by that? You build a bigger audience if you're out there commenting on other people's posts or other groups. Then you actually do posting your own. So I've joined some groups outside of our industry, and I'm going to be routinely posting on their sites. Now, this is a warning to you. When you start doing that, do not write a dissertation. They don't want to read it. They don't want to hear from you, okay? And don't be going into a commercial about Kangen water. But you can say something that might pique their interest and then try to get a phone call with them. So I'm going to be doing that. I've fine-tuned my LinkedIn account, and I have a stream of emails planned for each week throughout the entire year. My LinkedIn account is about 2,000 people. So if I reach out to my 2,000 LinkedIn contacts, they make on the average, by the way, of over $100,000 a year, along with my 800 plus followers on Facebook and my Twitter audience each week. Do you think I'm going to see success? You bet I will. But you know what I have to do? I have to be consistent. I can't try it once or twice and stop. I have to be known out there. I have to continue to do that out there. So I have to do these things to see success. I'm touching a whole lot more people doing that. But you might say, how in the world? How in the world are you going to pull that off? How are you going to schedule all that? It sounds like a big plan. It is a big plan, but it's a very doable plan. I'm going to show you how. So you wonder, how am I going to make it happen? Well, I've scheduled my time just as if I have a full-time job. And you know what? I don't know about you, but my entire life, I didn't know what 40 hours a week was. Even with my kids, I had to have an assistant kick me out of the door so I would go home to my family. I'm not afraid of hard work, and I'm not afraid of long hours, but I've scheduled myself just as if I have a full-time job. So do you schedule your time, or you just shoot from the hip? Do you roll out of bed and get a cup of coffee and just wonder what might be in store for you today? Because if you don't schedule, millions of things are going to get in the way of what you intended to do. It's just not going to happen. You've got to schedule yourself just as if you had a job. Value your time and put it on the books. Here's my call schedule. I know that statistically the best time of day to call is either first thing in the morning or between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. That's statistically. Kellogg School of Business did a study of 1 million phone calls, 1,000 companies, and this is what they came up with. They also noted that statistically the best days to make calls are Thursdays, that's the #1 day of the week to make calls, followed by Tuesday and Wednesday respectively. So my calls are going to take place on these 3 days. If I don't complete 10 calls in the morning, do the first thing in the morning kind of thing, they'll be completed by that afternoon between 4 and 5. I'll be unstoppable. It's not going to happen without I'll end the day without making those 10 calls. But here's how it breaks down. Total time per week, that's 10 hours maximum a week to make these calls. 10 hours. If you wonder how I'm going to do it, well, the most aggressive part of my plan is 10 hours a week. And then social media schedule. Although I already post daily, I do a lot of ministry, by the way, out there. A lot of it is for that. But although I already post daily, my push throughout my networks will take place on Mondays. Why? Because Mondays are, you can do follow-up calls on Monday, but don't pick up the cold call on Monday. It's a dead end straight. It's been proven. Don't do it. So I have Mondays, right? So my total time per week, including content prep, is 3 hours a week. So it might look aggressive on the surface, but until you break it down and look at what's it really going to take me to pull that off, you don't know what you're dealing with. So again, you've got to have that plan to even know what you're dealing with. And then my networking meetings. You know, attention to my schedule was given when I committed to the network meetings. I didn't do the reverse and try to work around these meetings. I went on to do my plan, and then I said, okay, now I need networking meetings. I had to find some that would work. By the way, I went on Meetup. I'm sure you have Meetup where you are, and that's where I found them all. But most of them are lunch meetings that I selected. A few of them are mid-morning meetings. You know, if they're on Monday or Friday, I'm good to go, right? But if they're Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I've got to be mindful. But even if I'm willing to drive an hour or so to a meeting, which I am, by the way, but even if I'm willing to drive, 2 meetings a week, the maximum time for those 2 meetings a week is going to be 7 hours. So what are we looking at? Is it doable or not? Of course it's doable. What we're looking at is the total time to initiate the plan I just shared with you is 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week. The balance of my work week will be dedicated to follow-up, 3-ways, demos, trainings, and all the other things that I need to do. But if I dedicate 20 hours a week to this plan, do you think I'll see success? You bet I will. How can I not see success? I'm reaching the numbers, the masses that we need to meet to be able for me to come up with eventually, through all this nonsense, at least 6 sales a week to make my $10,000 a week. So what will you do to make it happen? Again, some on this call took notes and feverishly, and they're praying it's recorded and whatever. They'll be inspired to develop a plan of some sort. And some on this call rolled their eyes. You're already making excuses why you can't do what I just shared. You don't have to do what I shared. You may not even aspire to make $10,000 a month, whatever. But if you want to be in business, you better have a plan to do something, whatever that is, however that equates in dollars, you better have something. But some have rolled their eyes, and they've already made excuses for why they won't do what I've shared. Some on this call will convince themselves that the plan that they have a better way of doing things, is less complicated, more efficient, and they won't surrender to a system of any sort. We've all seen that, people that won't do a 3-way, that won't do anything, right? Some people on the call already have a different plan, and I'm not saying mine's magical, but I am saying this. If you've been in sales, then you got to reach the masses. And there are only a certain number of things that we can do to do that. So if you got a plan, great, that, you can share with me at some point. But some just won't surrender. So will you make it happen? Or will you continue just to massage your why without a plan? Only you can answer that. And nobody else can do that for you. You're in business, and it all begins with you. You're in the business, and you need to act like it. You need to work like it. You need to produce like it. You need to persevere like it. And if that doesn't interest you to do any of those things, maybe you don't need to be in business. But the sad thing is most people quit just before success. It's so true. It's like those people that set out for Amanda, Ohio. Some people just, drove out and kind of drove around circles, and just before they arrived, they turned around and said, forget about it. They gave up. You can never win. You never, win a war without a battle. You got to keep fighting, and you got to keep going, and you will see success. But the real question is, will you plan for that success, or will you throw in the towel? Will you actually put forth the effort to plan for that success? So, there's only so many things that I can share with you, in a call like this. We can't spend forever. I hope that the foundations have given you an idea of what it takes to make that work. So I'm going to open it up now. If anybody has any comments, questions, anything whatsoever. Again, you have a panel on the right side of your screen. All you got to do is raise your hand, and I'm glad to open up the call. Don't be embarrassed. We have a very small call here. I've kept it that way on purpose so that you could feel free to ask questions and comment and that sort of thing. Anybody out there have anything to say? Raise your hand. I'll unmute the line. Hold on. Oh, good. We've got Jim Gilliland. Hold on one second, my friend. I'm unmuting you, and you should be open mic. Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, how you doing today? Excellent call.
Thank you.
You did a great job. I'm actually sitting here in my store, in Port Townsend, Washington, and thinking about some of the topics you talked about. LinkedIn is one. That's one area that I really fallen down on.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of Facebook. We do a lot of Twitter
Mm-hmm.
and other advertising. I'll tell you what, I've spent a lot of money on all forms of advertising. I mean, we're talking, since I've been in Enagic, I would say probably 15,000 plus a year in advertising.
Wow.
And found out that the phone books don't work, the billboards don't work, the paper ads, newspaper ads, online newspapers, all these things don't work. And social media is the way to do it. So maybe explain a little bit more what LinkedIn is.
Sure. LinkedIn really is kind of a business version of Facebook. They've actually modified their network quite a bit to be a lot more like Facebook. But statistically, they've shown that the incomes are very high producing incomes. So LinkedIn has often been used for recruiting, so you could connect with people in your field, find, professionals in your field, that sort of thing. So the way I use LinkedIn, of course, you can get contacts. I have the free program, by the way. I paid for LinkedIn for years and found that I really don't need to if I know how to get the contacts. But, you are able to text those people through LinkedIn. You can email those people through LinkedIn. What I do to feed LinkedIn is I also have a blog, or you could take any content that you want and you post it to LinkedIn just as you would to Facebook. And so when you do, of course, you feed a lot of traffic in that way. I will say that, what I found is that the more generic, the better. So, if you're talking about, making money, in other words, stay away from Kangen water, Enagic, ionizers, even I have found to basically stay away from talking too much health because I think naturally you're a supplement or an oil. And so it's just it's a different caliber though. You do need to step it up, and whatever you share can't be something, Facebook can take a lot of playful stuff where LinkedIn is very professional. And, I hope that helps in what I'm saying. Yeah. And then people will ask to be connected. I bet now I probably have 5 or 10 people a day asking to connect with me on LinkedIn. And so, that builds the network more and more and more. Here's another thing with LinkedIn. You can download to, an Excel spreadsheet all your contacts on LinkedIn. So a lot of people don't know that, but you go to your contacts there and click to download, and you have their emails forever and ever, amen. So you don't have to go through LinkedIn for that. The name of the game is keep the interest, keep the leads coming in, get the contacts, and then just continue to download, and you can email them directly. When you do, it is a good idea to have something in your subject line that says I'm your LinkedIn contact or from LinkedIn or something like that, so they're more inclined to open the email. But yeah, it's a wealth of information there.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? I see Jeannie's hand up. Hold on one second, Jeannie. There you go, my friend. Your open mic.
Yes. What is your elevator speech?
Oh, that depends on the audience. It really does. It really does. It depends on what the audience is. But for the most part, what's working for me right now, and now you're going to make me fumble because I'm not thinking about it, but this is what I've been saying most recently. I'll say I'm an environmental advocate specializing in water. I'm like a mini Aaron Brockovich, but instead of whistleblowing, I have solutions for businesses and families. Families like Aaron Brockovich family, the Trump family, and a wild array of other families. And so then I just take it from there. So I'm an environmental advocate. I specialize in water, and I'm dropping names. Okay, so it depends, but that's what I'm sticking with, environmental advocates. I have to tell you guys something. I think that, we have a product like no other, in terms of our health, really. It's just an astounding product. But there are probably a whole lot more people out there that are more concerned with environmental issues, get the toxins out of the home, free it up for your autistic children. Really, there's a million different other, I taught that one class on how you could build a business from each button. It's really important that you remember that. You don't want to go into some environments and start talking about drinking water when you'd be better suited talking about, toxins, getting toxins out of there. So that's what's been working for me most recently. I'm an environmental advocate specializing in water, a mini Aaron Brockovich. Instead of whistleblowing, I have solutions for business and families like the Trump family, Brockovich family, and Gates family, whatever I want to say from there. So does that help?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hold on one second. Bear with me, guys. I'm like a one-armed paper hanger here with this, trying to mute and unmute and mute and unmute. I see Marion's hand up, so I'm going to unmute you out there, and you should be open mic now. Marion? Hello, Marion.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. We can.
Okay, yeah, hello. My question is, I have sometimes difficulties to say something neutral. You mentioned before when you talk to people on LinkedIn. So you're not talking about Kangen water, not a magic. You don't mention ionizer. Then what are you doing?
Well, again, it depends on the message. You know, I might say that I represent a technology out of Japan that's absolutely blowing the socks out of any investment you could make. I might say something like that, something real catchy. But believe me, you know, if we're out there talking Kangen water and all that, we're going to get shot down. We really are. And so we really need to keep it more vague. But in a LinkedIn, yeah, I talk more about the business aspect of it, the technology side of it, the you know, the possibilities of income, you know, that investment. I would say words that would probably make sense to them instead of sticking with the health. I mean, there are groups that you can be part of, just like Facebook. You can be part of groups on LinkedIn, and there's more of
Yeah, I know, but I mean, how do you make an approach, let's say, to a chiropractor?
to a chiropractor?
Uh-huh.
You mean what would my strategy be?
To make him, to make him curious enough to let's say, to go off a cup of coffee and then talk more about it and then maybe even show him some material. So how would you get him curious enough, not really telling him what it is about?
Well, I have not cold called chiropractors. I have through the the networking groups and business cards. I've called on them that way. But I can tell you what I would do if I did. You know, it's important. You know, I use this analogy all the time, like with restaurants, okay? Restaurants, they don't give a rip about your health. They only do like gluten-free menus and things like that, you know, because they're marketing to their audience. Enough people griped about gluten-free, so they have a gluten-free menu. They don't really care about your health. So when you talk to them, to a restaurant, for instance, you have to talk about how you can add to their bottom line. And I think the same thing would be true for me with a chiropractor. It's not that they don't care about people. Obviously they do. And they're probably more, you know, open-minded than going to, you know, an MD somewhere. But I think you have to take the approach that you have something that they can't afford not to look at, that could increase their bottom line. Chiropractors are eating it up all over the country. I would say something catchy, because everybody in business wants to make more money. They don't necessarily care about your health. I'm serious. You know, we went to the convention in California 2 years ago, and it was funny because we were at that Marriott, you know, and I bet 100 million people were prospecting the waiters and the waitresses, you know, for our water. And we got this waiter that said, oh, we already have one of those in the kitchen. I couldn't believe it. You know, I didn't believe him, actually. I thought, well, he's just shutting us up. So I said, you got a cell phone with a camera? And he said, yeah. And I said, go to the kitchen and take a picture of that thing. So he goes in the kitchen and he comes out with a picture of a Super 501. And he said that the 4 Marriotts in that convention center where we were, every single one of them had a Super 501 in the kitchen. But guess what? They didn't serve us water. The chefs wanted it. You know, so you have to talk to your audience. The chefs wants it, you know, to remove the pesticides and all that stuff. Why? Because it makes the food taste better. The better it tastes, the more we come back. So, you know, I wouldn't cold call or go into a chiropractor and start talking about better health necessarily. I would say, I got a technology that, you know, you're missing out on, you need to hear about, because it could increase your bottom line, and chiropractors all over the country are grabbing on. I need to.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I hope that helped. Anybody else out there? Anything, question, comments? Just raise your hand. Be glad to open the line. You don't know till you ask, right? Okay, I see Jeannie Moore again. Hold on one second. Okay, Jeannie, you're open, my friend.
Okay, once you get the owner of a small, let's say an Italian restaurant, locally owned, once you get him, and he is interested, but after you get him agreeing to this, wouldn't we want to try to get him to do a water share, like the blue bottle on every table, and we proudly serve Kangen water and ask how you can get it?
I think there are, yeah, I think there are a couple ways that you can go about doing that. I mean, I hear some people, actually doing demo meetings in the restaurant and having the restaurant owner feed people into the demo meeting so it builds their business. I think the blue bottles are a must. I mean, you can have a restaurant on board, as long as they don't have, they're not trying to be a distributor or whatever, they have a lot of ways that they can use the water. And this is one thing that I've been presenting, and that is, I know we can't sell water, so don't get wrapped around the axle when I say this. But, if you could say to a restaurant, I'm sure you could all agree at this point, you don't go in and automatically get water anymore. You have to ask for water. You don't usually get water. And so, what I recommend that they do is they, ask people, would you like water? And they say, sure, I'd like some water. And they say, would you like tap water or Kangen water? And then have a little tent card that would explain what Kangen water is, only the best for our customers or whatever, right? And so they could say, not that they're going to sell the water, but they could say, we're going to charge a surcharge of $5 for your whole table, free refills, of course, of Kangen water if you're interested. So who's not going to do that, right? If you have a whole table full of people and it's just a free-flowing, good water for $5 for the entire table, most people are going to do it. Well, you would be surprised. Again, it's like that little penny or nickel on the ground. You'd be very surprised at how fast that adds up. Their unit could be paid for in no time. So there are lots of things that they could do. You've got to learn to help them toot their own horn. That's what a business wants. How are you going to make me look better? How are you going to make me money? If you can't answer those things, they don't want to talk to you. You can't go in and talk about, oh, you give your patrons healthy water. They don't care about that, right? But another thing that they do care about, and that is that if over time, of course, it takes some time, but if they were able to, embrace cleaning with our water, and do away with the chemicals in their facility, what happens eventually? Eventually their workman's comp insurance reduces because they haven't had any chemical related claims. And so there are all kinds of things that you can talk to, but you've got to, and you hear this over and over in our business, you've got to talk to your audience. You've got to know who you're talking to. If you go out and talk to nothing but money to somebody dying of cancer, they're not going to listen to you. And vice versa. You've got to know if you're going to be bold enough to, prospect businesses, you've got to learn what makes them tick and what's going to turn them on. And that's going to be, you got to make me look good and you got to show me how to make some money. And so until you get that, you're probably just going to be cold calling yourself to death and not getting there. So there are many different things that they can do. I hope that answers your question.
It does.
Like Marriott, you didn't see us get served Kangen water. It wasn't for us. It was for the kitchens. You've got to talk to their needs. And if they, are, again, it's all kinds of ways to make money or to save money. To a business, saving money is making money. So it might just be the chemical overload. So you got to be creative, but try to think through how could this make them money?
Have you called on a veterinarian before?
I have.
How did you do that?
I just went knocking. I also have.
And I'm asking because I've already talked with my vet twice.
Okay. Well, I've got a couple things. I just came up with, not too long ago, a pet newsletter, actually, so that's kind of going out there. But, I mean, they're a little bit more open. It's, even if you get a vet tech, they're a little bit more open to people calling on them. Remember, I'm sure you've been in a doctor's office of some sort, even a veterinarian's office, and some pharmaceutical drug peddler has come in, and they just come in. They're used to that, okay? So even though you might feel awkward, it's not unusual for them to have somebody basically cold call. But I tell you what I did, and it worked out famously. Someday it might fail me, I guess, but, I took some water and just said, why don't I show you what I want to tell you about? And I've never seen a dog not, walk away from their water and go to our water. I've never seen it happen. It might fail me sometime, but that's a great visual. That's, I think, are phenomenal prospects because, no offense, I do love pets. I sound like I don't, but I do. And, pet owners will do anything for their pets. It's ridiculous. There are people that would do more for their pet than they'd ever do for a child. There's no end to what they would do for a pet. And so, I think they're a great prospect to be able to introduce that to their clientele and to have an income stream. They often will look for another income stream, veterinarians. So I hope that helped.
When I said to my vet, I want to show you how you can increase your bottom line and you won't have to change your business, she said, I don't need the money. And she looked down at the floor and said, I don't need any money. And she has just built a humongous house. And she probably doesn't need the money, but I want her to want the money. And I want her to want to help people in the community. She has a small store next door where she sells different things, cat food, dog food, Yeti cups, whatever. And we could do demos there.
Well,
and I want her to.
I think you just hit on it. Well, first of all, two things I have to say. I had one person one time say to me, I don't need any more money. And I said, I've got to shake your hand. You're the first person I've ever met in my life that's made all the money they ever need to make. And that was a restaurant owner, by the way. You know that isn't true.
So, yeah, that's a lie.
Of course it's a lie. It's, we're not all greedy, but who's ever made enough money? I mean, of course they want to make money. But I'll tell you what it sounds like the trigger is for her. When I did the newsletter for pets, I called it the organic news. And I actually referred to organic water. Okay, so they're already, I guarantee you, she's selling in that store. That's what she's all about. Raw food, organic cat and dog food, all these grossly expensive things, and she could easily add an option for organic water. So she could give out samples, do the same thing, water share in her store. So that's what I would talk to. I would say if you care, it's so important, obviously, the health of the pets, and so much so that you focus on organic food. Why are you not willing to focus on organic water?
Cool.
Okay? Just drop the bomb.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anybody else? Now's the time, folks. You got any questions? I may not have the answers, but it's time to ask them. Somebody might. I see Bev Clark's hands raised, so Bev, you should be open. Bev Clark.
Thank you, Lynn. I just wanted to say thank you for
Uh-oh, she's got hurricane going through there, and you're going in and out, Bev. I think we've lost her. Whatever you're thanking us for, you're very, very welcome. We love you, and I'm muting you back out. Happy hurricane. I hope it goes okay for you. Anybody else out there? Again, now's the time to ask the question. I see Marion's hand up again, so Marion, hold on one second, hon, and you're unmuted. Marion?
Yeah. I thought this was a really great question from the lady with the restaurant. Mm-hmm. I just deal right now with a restaurant owner. What really helps is if you have a loaner unit. Get a loaner unit in the restaurant and let him serve the water to the people.
Right.
So this is what I did. And then if she is not successful with the veterinarian, why not talk to the employers from this lady and go to the back door, get them excited, and they will tell her. So just an idea.
That's a great idea. Thanks for sharing. I think that's wonderful. And yeah, another thing, guys, that I think we're, not focusing on as much as we possibly could, and we're so focused on health and so focused on chasing sick people that might want to make money that we're not getting there, and then we tend to migrate to just what we're hearing about the restaurants and that sort of thing. But there's not a business on the planet that's not a prospect to go green. At some point, we all have to do something about this plastic bottle mess, okay? We see universities banning plastic bottles. We see California taking the lead on banning plastic bags, and now in some areas of California, plastic bottles. Social responsibility begins at the top. So there's really not any business out there that you can think of that's already carting bottled water in that's not a good prospect for you. And that's exactly what it is. They're not spending their money wisely. They're slowly bleeding to death buying bottled water, and they're doing a lot of damage. But you can talk to a business and make them look heroic for taking that step to ban plastic water bottles from the workplace. And don't think it can't be done. I remember years ago when I was in I think it's an 8-story office building, and they banned perfume. Let me tell you something. I always have perfume, okay? But somebody in that building said that they were allergic to perfume, so there was no longer any cologne or perfume. Now that's probably 15 plus years ago. And now what do we have? We ban peanuts. You can't get peanuts. You usually can't get peanuts on an airplane. We have peanut-free classrooms. We have all kinds of stuff going on because people don't want peanuts. So don't think for a second that if you spin it right, you can't get a business to say, you know what, we're done with plastic bottles. Don't think for a second. Any business out there is a prospect. From a law firm to a veterinarian to a restaurant to accounting firm, it really doesn't matter. Everybody's a prospect, and I think we can make a big difference there. And it's not necessarily talking about healthy water as much as it is about cleaner, safer water, right? And so there's a big, big possibility there. Another side of that is that, we've heard a lot about Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan, no offense here, but Flint, Michigan, got a lot of press because, of course, of the dirty politics and the cost-cutting measures that they took that accelerated their problem. But, there are jurisdictions across our country with lead levels a whole lot higher than Flint, Michigan. It's a perfect storm to be talking to people. I'm not saying we have all the answers, okay, but a combination of things might be all the answers. Well, whatever we got, I can tell you that most of the lead's going to come out. We've got an answer to at least take a step in the right direction, even if it requires a couple of steps, to be able to get the best water then get. Their antenna is up. And, you hear in politics talking about infrastructure. They're not talking about just bridges and roads. They're also talking about water systems that are dying out on us, okay? And so it's important that you don't just look at, healing water and looking for sick people that want to be business owners. I mean, it's also about just look at the whole broader picture. As far as I'm concerned, everybody on the planet's a candidate, right? But you've got to know your audience and know what the buzzwords are to spin it. You've got to understand who to say what to. And again, you don't go talking about making tons of money to somebody dying of cancer and vice versa. And you don't talk about healthy, give your patrons healthy water. When they're in the restaurant business, they really don't care about health. They just want to sell stuff, okay? So you've got to understand your audience there. But, as far as I'm concerned, every stinking business on the planet is a prospect for what we have. If you don't do anything but take advantage of the fact that they're already buying water. They're already spending money on water. We're just having them redirect their spending. So why wouldn't they redirect it to a long-term solution, right? So the sky's the limit. Anybody else out there? Questions, comments? And looks like we might have covered everybody. I don't see anybody else's hand out there. So hopefully, guys, and again, this was inspired by my buddies on Facebook, Jeannie particularly, that, said, let's get this, I want to learn. I don't know if I've given you what you needed. Oh, I see one more hand here. Hold on. Elizabeth has her hand up. Elizabeth, are you there, hon? Oh, hold on a second. You're not unmuting for me. Hold on. I don't know why I can't unmute you. You won't. I can't unmute you. I guess you might be on with just your phone. So sorry about that, hon. You can email me or text me or whatever you had to ask or comment on. So it looks like that might be it, guys. And again, I was inspired by my friends on Facebook that saw me talking it up. I really do hope that I've given you something that will inspire you to come up with a plan. I've shown you an aggressive plan. Yours doesn't have to look like mine does, but, mine, when I narrowed it all down, you could see that even that aggressive plan was only 20 hours a week for me to make it happen. So I hope that you'll be inspired to make it happen. It doesn't matter that it's after the first of the year and you don't have a plan, and I would encourage you, as you bring people into your business, get them to make a plan. This is not just a year-end plan. It's just when I happen to do mine, right? But get them to make a plan, because without a plan, without that roadmap, ain't nobody going anywhere. So it's got to happen, right? So if you want to build those people towards success, you've got to inspire them to make a plan as well. So I assume that's it. God bless you all. Thanks for tuning in. Again, I hope I was helpful to you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.